The best way to speed up that rebuild or continue on your championship reign is buying players early on before their breakout. So here are 7 players that are going to have huge 2023 seasons. So far this year, Trevor Lawrence is the QB8 in fantasy, averaging almost 18 points per game. He's on pace for over 4,000 passing yards, 26 passing touchdowns on a 66% completion percentage. Oh, and he's on pace for an additional 300 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground for an added boost of fantasy points every single week. So it's no surprise that Trevor Lawrence is having a better sophomore season without Urban Meyer, but his 3rd season will be his best yet, because not only will it be year 2 in Doug Peterson's offense, but he's also going to be getting Calvin Ridley as his alpha wide receiver 1 to pair with Christian Kirk, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars draft another receiver on day 1 or day 2, especially since they're in prime Jackson Smith and Jigba territory inside the top 10 picks of the 1st round. I also haven't even mentioned Travis Etienne's receiving talent out of the backfield as an additional weapon to throw to. With the potential of all these weapons for Lawrence to throw to, we could be looking at next year's version of Tua Tagovailoa as the breakout quarterback in 2023. So buy him now before his price inflates for an early 23 first and second. An aging but productive veteran, maybe upgrade your quarterback 2 in Superflex. Just go get Trevor Lawrence. But if you want a breakout quarterback that's way cheaper, take a look at Jared Goff. Now I know what you're thinking, Jared Goff, but hear me out. What Jared Goff has done for the Lions this year has been nothing short of amazing. He's actually on pace to beat Trevor Lawrence in every passing statistic with 4,400 passing yards, almost 30 touchdowns, which is why he's the quarterback 12 in fantasy right now. If you look ahead to next year, Detroit has 4 picks in the first 2 rounds, including a top 5 pick from the LA Rams. Assuming they don't draft a quarterback that is firepower to continue adding to this offense with either skill players or offensive linemen. Not to mention that 2023 will be Jameson Williams' first full season in the NFL, completely healthy from his ACL injury in college. This offense has firepower everywhere you look, and as long as Goff survives the draft, he could be in for another huge 2023 season that you can get ahead of now and purchase at a massive discount in your dynasty leagues. We know who else is going to have a massive breakout season in 2023 that's currently going at a huge discount? It's J.K. Dobbins, because we have punished him way too hard for a completely lost fantasy season in 2022. But in 2023, Dobbins will be fully healthy and ready to lead a potent Ravens rushing attack. We actually just saw a glimpse of that this past week when Dobbins torched the Steelers defense for 120 yards and a touchdown on 15 carries. This is a player that we absolutely loved coming out of college, had a fantastic rookie season where he was on pace for over 1,200 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns from week 8 on in 2020. Unfortunately, injuries claimed his 2nd and now 3rd season, but a healthy Dobbins in 2023 will be a monster for fantasy, especially at his massively discounted prices in Dynasty. So go get Dobbins now before his price skyrockets in the offseason. Speaking of skyrocketing, have you seen what Chigoziem Okonkwo has been doing the past 2 weeks? Because he's turned in back-to-back double-digit PPR performances on 11 total targets, including 6 for 45 and 1 this past week against Jacksonville. It's not often that we see a tight end run a sub 4.55 at the combine like Okonkwo, and in fact, the last 7 tight ends to do so were Kyle Pitts, Alberto, Noah Fant, Mike Gesicki, Evan Ingram, OJ Howard, and George Kittle. In the current tight end landscape, no stones can be left unturned searching for that next breakout guy, and Okonkwo has the athleticism to be that guy. You can probably still get him as a throw-in your next trade, or maybe for a couple 4ths, or even just a 3rd straight up. Or maybe you already have Okonkwo, but you still want to toss a 3rd for another dart throw tight end, because that would be Cade Otton. Otton has found great success so far in this crowded Buccaneers offense as a rookie tight end, especially when Cameron Brate is on the sideline. He's actually averaging 11 points per game without Brate, basically seeing every receiving stat triple in production. As this Bucs team moves from a contender to a rebuilder as Tom Brady retires, Otton could be a focal point of a younger offense for a couple years, and if he averages over 10 points per game in a season, that is going to make him a top 10 fantasy tight end who's currently going at tight end 20 prices. So we talked about 2 rookies in a row. We might as well make it 3, because the most common season in recent years for a wide receiver to break out is in year 2, which I'm betting will be Drake London next year. And as a rookie, London has already seen a massive 28% target share, which is 10th in the league right now, but those targets have only translated to wide receiver 44 fantasy production because his coaching staff and quarterback are incompetent. But things are finally looking up for London to end the season because Marcus Mariota has been benched for Desmond Ridder. The Falcons have a very clear offensive scheme. They want to run the ball and then throw it deep off play action. And Mariota is terrible at throwing it deep, but that was one of Ritter's strengths last year in college. All Drake London needs are more accurate passes coming his way on the same target volume that he's already getting, and we're looking at a top 25 fantasy receiver. His dynasty price has cooled off a lot recently as other rookies have emerged, leaving London in the dust, but not anymore, and you should be buying as much Drake London as possible before the community jumps on board. But sometimes those sophomore breakouts don't always pan out as much as we want. We were just a year too early on them, and that's what I think is happening with Josh Palmer. Palmer has already had a fantastic sophomore season, on pace for nearly 1,000 yards on 130 targets, but what if his third season in 2023 was even better? Keenan Allen could be a cap casualty at 31 years old to save $15 million after battling injuries for the large majority of the last 2 years. Mike Williams is also going to be 29 years old and has also had issues with injuries himself. We have seen Palmer take over as the wide receiver 1 in games this season with huge performances in week 9 and week 11, plus 5 more games with 8 or more targets. This Chargers offense could look a lot different very soon, and Palmer could be in line for a huge opportunity as one of Justin Herbert's primary targets, which is why I think he could have a breakout 2023 season. But while you're making all those trades, I think there's one additional asset in Dynasty that is super underrated right now that you need to be scooping up. So watch this video next to learn what that is.